so much for being my guest. I'm so happy that you're here. How are you feeling?
Pretty good.
Pretty good? Are you nervous?
Not really.
Okay. All right, well, I wanted to interview you because you are an exceptional young man. I'm not just saying that, he really is. And so I wanted to get an opportunity to interview you because of that. You're in college, Cal Poly Pomona. But the reason why, like I said, I want you to talk about your background is because, you know, there's a lot of people who might say because of their background or their upbringing, they cannot accomplish certain things. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Like what kind of details? I sure wish we had more money sometimes.
Right.
It's definitely been difficult at times, you know. We've struggled with a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, you know, those struggles make you a lot stronger. And I'm really happy about the type of life I've had because I feel like it's given me a different perspective on the world than a lot of people who, you know, other people who are doing the types of things that I want to do have.
Okay, and what type of perspective do you feel like you have in the world now based on your background, your upbringing?
Well, I think things can be a lot better. So I'd like to make things better for the entire world and for myself. So that kind of helps drive a lot of the things that I want to do to help make the world a better place. I would like to have a world where people didn't have to go through the bad things that I had to go through. And I would like to have a world where it sounds like it was really bad. It wasn't that bad.
Can you name one particular thing that?
I mean, yeah, we didn't have that much money and all the things that come with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few different things. I didn't think we were going to go. I mean, I guess I can. Yeah, I don't know.
Go ahead.
There were a lot of different things. I don't want to go into like a depressing story right from the start, but even though some sad things happened, it wasn't that bad. A lot of people have experienced some things that make me go like, wow, and then I think, you know, I had it bad and some people had it even worse than that, you know, there's a lot of work to be done in the world. For sure. But some people have it really good, and there's a lot of really good things in the world, and there's a lot of really good things that I've experienced. So those things kind of give you something to like aspire to, you know. This is how it could be, you know.
Okay, and so you were talking about that you went to Cal Poly, and I'd like, you know, to add that. How old were you when you graduated?
17 or 16? I was 16.
16 years old, so you skipped 8th grade. All right, and through there, I mean, you did work on scholarships and things. You gained a few scholarships, right?
I had one scholarship.
One scholarship. What was that scholarship?
It was the SOMA scholarship. What did I have to do? It was kind of like an interview process and an application process to get it, and they were trying to help out people who they felt needed the financial support and you could do well in college.
Okay. How did you qualified? How did you qualify?
You know, I don't remember if...
Did you have to write?
I think I had to write some things, and I know I had to do an interview. I don't remember if it was like something that got sent out to the entire school or if someone invited me to participate in it individually. That feels like a really long time ago.
Okay. Well, with I mean, you've experienced a whole lot. You're how old now?
I'm 20 now.
And you've experienced a whole lot, accomplished a whole lot, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to interview you because, it wasn't that long ago, but at the same time, it seems like a whole lot because you've done a whole lot, and I'm very proud of you, of course. And you're welcome. And so, how did you end up going to Cal Poly, and why Cal Poly?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, I mostly went because of you, but then eventually I actually wanted to go. But I was not wanting to go to college for a little while at first, coming out of high school. I just wasn't sure if it was like the type of environment that I'd like. But actually after you put me into a program that helped kind kind of like expose us to colleges and so forth. And I visited
Blue.
a college campus that was called Blue Educational Foundation.
Yes.
And after visiting UCR, I realized that it was actually a type of place that I'd be really interested in. It seemed like you had people there who were actually like passionate about learning. They had like really cool, you know, features there. It was a really cool campus. And so that kind of made me more excited about applying. I went to Cal Poly mostly because it was close and I visited the campus and I really liked the campus. And yeah.
Well, I'm very glad that you were inspired to go to college. You know, that was one of my big things. Can you elaborate a little bit, though, on what you mean that you didn't feel that college would be the right environment for you?
Yeah, I was kind of on this, like, wanting to start a company and do all this stuff coming out of high school, and I really wanted to focus on my ideas. I was developing a website at the time. And I just wanted to focus on that. And I was really interested in learning things, and I like learning things on my own, you know, just like researching things on my computer and so forth. But the idea that I had always had of school and that I expected from college was that everybody was just kind of there to get a job and no one was really passionate about actually learning things and so forth. And I felt like I could kind of do things on my own. I have a very different perspective now on all of that. But after visiting, I learned that that wasn't necessarily true either. But I've also learned that, you know, going to college can be valuable for a lot of other reasons that I didn't expect either.
Well, that's good. What the foundation that I mean, what you're talking about though, is a good, you know, way of thinking because you didn't want to be kept into a box. So it says a lot about you. It's just a matter of directing it in a way that can help enhance, you know, who you are and the type of person that you are. So I'm very happy that you ended up going to college. And what is your perspective now on college?
I think college is very good. I guess I think that pretty much everyone should go to college, although I think it's fine if you don't, but as I do think it's important to have something to do and have a plan to do. I think that everyone should be educating themselves constantly, even if they're not going through like formal education. I think one of the mistakes that I had made, or almost made, is that if I hadn't have gone to college, I would have just been putting everything on that business that I was trying to start as a high schooler, and I didn't really have all the information that I needed, and you know, it didn't end up being successful, and so I would have been kind of left stranded, and I'd have to do something anyway. So going to school kind of gives you, even if you're trying to do things on the side, start a company, do some other endeavor, it kind of gives you something to, something that makes sure that you're doing something, that you're constantly being educated as you go through life. And I've had a very good experience there. I feel like, I mean, of course, there are a lot of people who go to college and they don't really care about, you know, learning and stuff. They're just trying to get their degree, get out, get a job, and so forth. But there are a lot of really interesting people there. The professors I really like most of my professors. And I think one thing I like about going to college is that all the professors have PhDs, and so they're very knowledgeable in their field. So if you ask them a question, they can actually like really give you really good answers because they've been studying that your whole life. When you're in, you know, your primary education, sometimes the teachers can't go as in depth with you, or if they answer a question, it's not the full picture because, you know, they kind of have a wider range of information that they're giving you, but they may not be an expert in that particular thing or as much to that extent. They haven't done their own study or something like that. You know, when you take a class in college, the professor has all sorts of extra background information to give you that you couldn't get anywhere else because it's based off of some of the research that only they are doing. So that's pretty cool. Oh, and I've had the opportunity to do undergraduate research at college too. So actually being able to do research is really cool. That wasn't something I'd really understood before deciding to go to college. I didn't know that you could actually do research there, like actual science. I thought it was exactly like high school where you mostly sit through class. We did have labs in high school and you have labs in college, but you can also actually have a research project and work with faculty. And Cal Poly is actually uniquely really good for that in the CSU system as a whole. The California State University system as a whole is pretty good for undergraduate research opportunities.
All right. And I like that. Very well said, Uriah. What is your major in at Cal Poly?
I'm a biotechnology major.
And before we get into that, I'd like to say maybe some accomplishments that you've made so far at college. You did say research, you've done research, and what are the other things that you've accomplished?
So I've been really involved on campus in clubs and in student government. So my first 2 years, I was involved in like volunteering for things, involved in clubs, club leadership, I did quite a bit of different things on campus. And then my third year, I ran for student body president, and I was student body president. And my second year, I ran for student body president, and I was student body president during my third year. And now I'm mostly focusing on academics and on my research, preparing for graduate school. But I do still, participate in certain conferences or events where I'm able to, like, help the community in any way or help different people in any type of way.
And so you said you ran in your second year and became ASI president in third year.
Mm-hmm.
Did you run in the first year?
I ran my freshman year as well, but I did not win that year.
And so
I was trying to avoid saying that. No, I'm just kidding.
What was that experience like?
The first time running?
Yes, and the fact that you did not win. How did you feel about that? What was that experience like?
So the first time running, it was a very good experience. It was very impactful. It was very different and difficult. It was outside of a lot of what I was used to, so I had to learn a lot, and I did learn a lot. I really enjoyed having the opportunity to talk to so many people and kind of like learn what people's perspectives were on the state of the campus and what solutions they thought should be implemented to make the campus better. Because I ran as a freshman, of course I didn't really know anything about college or about like the problems that were going on there. So I really had to focus on learning about the problems and coming up with ideas on how to solve them. So me and my vice president, who I was running with at the time, we really focused on coming up with like a platform based off of the conversations that we had with people throughout the campus. And that was really fun to do. It's really fun to come up with ideas to make the campus better. It's really cool to meet with lots of different people, although especially at first it was very stressful. I wasn't very good at speaking at first. That was very new to me. So that was tough. It was tough, like, we'd set up tables and we'd talk to people as they came by. And I was too scared to actually call anyone over to my table because everyone in college is busy. So people are just walking past and you kind of have to like get up from your table and be like, hey, and you're like, I don't want them to ignore me. I don't want to be annoying. So I kind of just sat there like smiling, like, please someone come to the table. And nobody really just goes to your table for no reason unless you're really like, energetic and so forth. I had a friend who was helping me actually, and he's super energetic. He's like, vote for Uriah, come on. He's running out, he's grabbing people and so forth. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I'm so scared or whatever. But I learned a lot from that. And the next time I ran, I didn't have that problem. And the same thing with giving speeches. I would try to, write down some stuff on a note card and hold it while I talked, and I'd be shaking literally.
Really?
And,
Wow.
I always told myself like, kind of memorize it and then glance at the note card. It never works because then you're nervous, and when you try to glance, you actually have to read, and then you realize that you're a slower reader than you thought, and everyone's looking at you as you read every sentence, and then you're like, oh my goodness, and then you're like shaking harder, and you're sweating, and people aren't excited about what you have to say because you're not a good speaker, and they're just looking at you, and then you're like, man, and then you just get out of there. But towards the end of it, I kind of had the idea that I think we did a really good job for being freshmen and being new to the school. I think we did a very good job getting support that first year, but it wasn't the best, and I knew it wasn't the best, and I kind of knew we probably weren't going to win towards the end of it, but I told myself, like, I'm going to really try my best to speak to as many people as possible and so forth, and put myself through that position as much as possible so that I never have this feeling again that next time I give a speech I feel completely comfortable. And so it was basically torture, but I came out of it a lot stronger. And the next time I ran, it was almost like magic actually, because the last speech I gave my freshman year, I was still like shaking, really nervous, it wasn't good. And then it was basically an entire year before I ran again, but it was almost like whatever I'd gone through just really affected me. And the first speech I gave my junior year, I just felt a lot more comfortable. Still difficult, it wasn't perfect or anything, but I was like, wow, I guess I really can do this. And I'm glad I pushed myself be my limits in my first year. But man, that was a tough year. Yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about for that year.
Well, what is awesome about you is that you did push through. And a lot of people, running for ASI president your freshman year is huge. And a lot of people, first off, wouldn't do that. And then second, possibly wouldn't do that. And then second, the fact that you lost and then it didn't stop you from running the next year. So I think that that says a whole lot about you and your work ethic and who you are as far as being on the go and just trying and keep on pushing through. Where do you think that you got that from? That type of character that you have?
Maybe from you somewhat. At least some of it is from you, definitely. As far as just how you raised us and so forth. I don't know, it's been hard though because I feel like I feel like some of what I did that my first 3 years of college, some of it was pretty unhealthy. I pushed myself like really hard. So hard I feel like I almost like permanently damaged myself. Even now, sometimes I wake up and I'm just like, wow, like wow. Those years affected me. I think
okay?
I'm okay. I get better every day, you know. I learned a lot about how to balance things and that, you know, there are things that are very important. There are more things that are important than just the things that you want to accomplish. Like you also have to take care of yourself.
Right.
And that's really important. And I had to learn that I'm not invincible. Like I thought that if I ignored every single signal my body was sending me and just pushed as hard as I could, everything would be fine. But you actually do need to eat and you actually do need to sleep and you need a lot of other things as well. And I learned that because towards the end I was like, wow. But in some ways it paid off. I think that you just have to be able to identify like when do you really need to push super hard and when do you need to relax, and you can't be pushing super hard all the time or else you'll crash.
A balance.
Yes, yeah.
And I've seen you mature a lot. You know, there was times where I don't know how to say it, but you know, you weren't doing certain, I mean, you've always been pretty stellar for the most part, but just little things where I've seen you matured. I mean, now you keep your room spotless and you know, your car, you're keeping it clean, things like that. What was the transition for you to doing that and maturing in that way?
Oh, and like being more organized and everything. I think I've realized the importance of a lot of things that I didn't realize the importance of early on. I remember when we were younger, you used to always have us really clean things a lot and stuff. That didn't really stick with me so much. I think because I didn't really understand the point of it back then. You know, I was just like a little kid. I just wanted to play, and you're like, you know, clean the bathroom, and I'm like, what difference does it make if the bathroom's a little dirty or if it's clean?
They give me
the world's exactly the same. That's how I had seen it back then, and like the same with my room. But I think that as I had to deal with more things in my life, I started to realize that there is some value in being organized and clean. You know, now I know where all of my stuff is. I never lose anything. If I need to get something, I can go exactly to it. Like, it just reduces a lot of stress from your life. You know,
Yes.
You know, it's clean. You don't have to worry about any problems with things. You know, and it's always nice, you know, when, you know, people go into your car and they're like, oh, wow, this is the cleanest car I've ever been in. And you're like, yeah, you know, I know. But, you know, yeah, I like having everything together, and I'm still trying to pull things together. But I do think there's like a certain point where, especially when looking at all the things that I have to do to get to where I want to be, and just, there's been so many things that I've been trying to clean up one at a time. Like I've been trying to, you know, become adept at cooking, so I can prepare meals that will last me all week long and that are actually delicious. And I'd like to be able to invite friends over and cook for them or cook for family and be able to impress people. So all those things I've been really trying to get, good at cooking. I've been trying to become more organized. Yeah, I like impressing people. I would like to, on your birthday, give you some like super nice, dressed up, elegant meal, and you'll be like, wow, it's,
Well, I don't impress easy, and I am impressed by you. And not just because he's my son, but it's true. I am impressed by you.
You don't impress easy.
You inspire me. Yes, I don't impress easy. And you inspire me. So I love you. Okay, biotechnology. Your major is biotechnology. Can you tell us why you chose biotechnology? There's not a lot of people. Is there a lot of people who choose that major, those type of science majors? And there are?
Well, I actually don't know the numbers for like science in general versus other majors. I'm not sure about that. But there's a decent number of people who pursue science in general. I think like the main majors that you get, you have like a lot of psychology people. I know psychology is like maybe the most popular major. I think business is really popular, but I think computer science is a really popular one too, which is, well, in our school it's in the College of Science. I think in some places it's like engineering or something. I think biology is pretty popular. General biology, not necessarily biotechnology.
So what is biotechnology? And in science as well, it said that Black people are not, that's like, there's practically zero or something, some low percent. I'm just putting something out there.
I had to look up the numbers once. It's a really low percentage in science, in terms of like people who have degrees in science. And then especially when you go to people who have masters or PhDs in science, the number is like really, really low. And then amongst those people who have degrees in science, like like physics, biology, chemistry is even lower. Like less than like 1 or 2%, I think. I don't want to spat off random numbers, but I remember it being that low, especially for PhDs. But definitely way below what it should be given the amount of Black people that are in this country.
So why do you think that, what is biotechnology and why is it important to you, or why did you choose that major in science?
There's a lot of different reasons why I chose biotechnology. I'm actually really interested in every type of field, so it was kind of hard for me to choose a specific major. On my own, I like to read about all sorts of things and learn about all sorts of things. So like, I've always been really interested in engineering and politics and business and economics and math and physics, but the reason why I ended up converging on biotechnology, at least for my formal education, was because partly I felt like it contained a lot of things that would be very difficult for me to learn on my own. Like I like reading about politics or business on the side. It's kind of hard to read about science on the side, at least it used to be for me. I think now with some of the things I know, I could probably just like pick up a science textbook and kind of go through it. But it's a little harder to get started on that. And I think like going into college, there were a lot of things that I just didn't understand about biology in particular. I like focusing on biotechnology and biology because it helps you to understand kind of a lot of like really important things about how the world works and how people work. Biology is like the basis of everything that happens with your brain. So that's really interesting.
Biotechnology, or you said biology?
Biotechnology is kind of like applied biology. So I have to learn a lot of biology. So I kind of take a lot of the same classes as biologists, and then I take a lot of chemistry as well.
So what do you want to do with biotechnology major?
Well, I want to be U.S. president in the future, and before that I want to get a PhD in bioinformatics.
In what?
Bioinformatics, which is, this is going to be a kind of I have to go through several steps, I guess, of explanation. Okay. It's kind of a...
they can look it up. Y'all can look it up.
The thing about biotechnology, it's kind of a lot of things fall within biotechnology. Certain types of medicine fall within biotechnology, certain types of like computational techniques fall within biotechnology, certain types of like medical devices, certain agricultural techniques, certain medical techniques.
So why would you think that it's important for, well, first, I know we were talking, and I don't remember the conversation we were talking about when you were explaining people coming to introduce certain things. Do you know what I'm talking about, right? And you were saying when they were coming, was it like the Black community where they were?
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about that?
So it's been my experience that in a lot of programs that exist to, like usually to get more Black students involved in higher education, or mostly higher education in general, that they focus, science tends to be completely left out of that, like, and in that sense I mean like not even mentioned, or engineering, science or engineering. Usually it's very focused on a lot of times sports, and if not sports, then probably business. There's a lot of focus on business and sports, and those are two really great and important things, but I think it's important to have more diversity in every field. And so one thing that I wish I'd see in a lot more of these programs is more exposure to, people who actually work in the sciences, who work in engineering, or who, in other things, psychology, art, just, especially because there's such a lack of diversity in those areas. And a lot of people, if they're never exposed to those ideas, like a lot of Black people don't have members of their family who are scientists. I don't know any members of our family who are in science or engineering, or even really vaguely interested in it, not really. And that can be an important factor as to why people decide not to go into those fields. And I think that it also causes there to be a certain lack of knowledge in those communities around those topics. Like, for example, it's good to have a family member who you can call who's maybe a lawyer, or a family member who's a doctor. Just people who can talk to you about certain things or explain certain things about you to you, give you guidance in life. It kind of can empower an entire community to have lawyers, doctors, and a diversity of different professions. And scientists are one of those. I think that's valuable.
Absolutely. That's a good point. But with you, so knowing that, and knowing that different, people may come to your school or high school or whatever and then say, hey, this is what's going on. Are you interested in this? And especially reaching out to, the Black community per se. If that wasn't, how did you get interested in biotechnology?
Oh, okay.
Or science at all?
So how I got interested in biotechnology, I became interested in biotechnology because I was already interested in science, and I was reading about certain things involved in science, and I started to learn about biotechnology that way. But as far as how I got interested in science in general, I'm not too sure about that. I think just every once in a while I came into contact with certain ideas in science, and they really interested me. And because they interested me, I read up more on it, either online, or sometimes I had certain books that I learned more about. And so I guess it was just kind of happenstance, just certain things exposing me to science that got me interested in it. And maybe just that I recognized the value of science, I think, really quickly. But yeah, there wasn't really anything like super specific, like a person or an event that really made me interested in science. Maybe, yeah, I don't really think so.
Okay. All right, you mentioned that you want to become U.S. president, and you just kind of like said that, like, yeah, I'm gonna, become U.S. president. Like, are you serious about that?
Yes.
All right. What are your plans? Like, what reason do you want to be U.S. president, and what are your plans concerning that?
Okay, so the reason why I want to be U.S. president is because I want to make the world a better place. Similar to what we had talked about before, Is
that what inspired you to be president? Is your experience in life?
I think it was a combination of things. I think one of the perspectives that I've gotten from like science and engineering, and I think even like just studying history and like some things in politics, is like the importance of solutions-oriented thinking. And I guess I just started to believe that things can be a lot better, and that combined with the knowledge that things aren't that great in a lot of areas, kind of inspired me to want to do something about it and just think of what's the way that I can make the most positive impact. And so if I am qualified by the time that I'd like to run, then I would like to run. Of course, if I didn't feel like I had come up with the proper solutions by that time, I wouldn't run. But what I'd like to do is try to come up with solutions to the problems that I see in the world. And once I think I have good ideas and a good way of going about doing that, I'd like to apply for the position that gives me the most ability to get that done. And there's a lot of things I'd like to do other than being president to contribute to that. But I think that being president will definitely help with some of the goals that I have.
And you're 20 years old, so you have plenty of time to think about solutions, because by the time you're able to become president is 35.
Yes, I have to be 35. And so I want to get a PhD after this. And after I get my PhD, I have about 10 years to really just focus on coming up with solutions and coming up with a strategy and so forth.
I like your plan. All right, I have some questions for you. One would be, well, let me see, I like your plan, and, well, let me say this, a lot of people have problems with planning, and especially that far ahead, and especially for something like U.S. president. When you say something like that, some people, their reaction is like, oh my goodness, how do you feel like that's oh my goodness, like a far-fetched sort of dream, or how do you view running for president or being president of the United States at 20 years old?
Yeah, weirdly, I don't see it as that,
You see it as very attainable.
Yeah.
I like your mindset.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know why people don't. I think that if I can come to the table with good solutions and a decent, strategy of some sort, I think I have a good chance. And I really want to work out these solutions really hard. So I feel confident that I'll be able to come up with something. And I devote a lot of time to thinking about these things. But if I didn't win, it's also not the biggest deal to me. It's not like I'm staking my whole life on winning. It's just if I feel like I can do some good to the world, then I'd like to try to be in that position. But if I can't, there are lots of ways to implement those solutions without being president. I get involved in nonprofit work and different types of things like that. So while that's a goal that I have, it's not like the overarching goal of my life. It's just kind of one step in helping to create the type of world that I'd like to see. But there's a lot of things I want to do after that and before that and during that. And even if it doesn't happen, there are lots of things I can do instead. So it's, yeah.
I like your thinking. You're awesome. I like your thinking. All right, what inspires you?
What inspires me? A few things. You inspire me, but it's kind of cliche.
Really?
Yeah. I think you've been a pretty good mom. It's pretty good. So I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot from a lot of people. I think that maybe one of the things I find very inspiring is all the good that can come out of people, even when they're experiencing hardship. There's like a lot of good in people that can come out. Let me think of the best way to say this, and just I think humanity inspires me in a way. There's like a lot of bad things going on with humanity, but I think there's a lot of like really inspiring things as well. Like people can do really, really cool things if they come together, and people manage to do really cool things even when they're really struggling. And that's something that really inspires me, because I just feel like there's so much opportunity for a better world. There's so much opportunity to explore things, to explore the world. I think the world inspires me too. Like the world is really fascinating. There's so much out there. And like, while I'm really interested in making the world a better place, I'm also really interested in learning about the world and exploring. If everything in the world was perfect, like I would just be spending my time like traveling to places, meeting new people, eating food. I love eating food, eating new food, trying new things, exploring. There's so many different species of animals out there. Looking at all of those.
Make life sound very exciting.
There's a lot of exciting stuff out there. There's space, infinite space. That's really exciting to be able to explore those things eventually. And that's part of what inspires me in science as well, is that you get to like investigate really interesting questions and kind of like paint a picture of how the world works.
Well, that brings us to my next question. Finish this sentence. Life is...
The first word that came to my, I don't know if it was that type of like first word that came to your head type of question.
Whatever you have.
The first word was great, but I don't know why that came to my head first, because it's only great sometimes, but it is great, you know. But life is interesting. That's probably the most accurate statement I think I can complete this.
Okay, interesting.
It's definitely interesting. I don't think anyone can deny that part.
Maybe we all know what that means.
Yeah, it's interesting in a lot of different ways.
And I agree. I agree in the sense that you sharing our life experience of it being very challenging and wishing that we had more money practically our entire life, and we sit here with this background and people may wonder, what? I don't understand that. And so yeah, life is very interesting. I just have to add that. How do you define success?
I think success varies from person to person. I think how I define success would be being the type of person I want to be. And I think, yeah, I used to define success as like each person has their own goals that they want to achieve or so forth. But I actually think that's wrong now. I don't think that you should let your goals define you. Like your goals should change as you change, I think, and based off of what's actually a good goal. So now I think, when I think of success for myself, I think of like, am I a good person? Do I feel good? Do I feel confident? Am I enjoying my life? Do I have good relationships? Am I a, like well put together person and are living life well? Am I...
I love that.
I think the best way for me to put it is like, are my actions reflective of like how I feel on the inside? Do my actions reflect my heart? If I want things to be a certain way,
so
am I doing that?
Yes, I love that. So would you say that you're successful?
I think I'm almost successful in that regard. I think I'm getting there. There's a few things. One thing I'm happy about though is that the parts of my life and of myself that I've identified, usually like when I identify that there's something I need to get better at, 100% of the time so far I've gotten better at that thing. So that's really encouraging, that I feel like I can get to where I want to be. But then sometimes it feels like the list just keeps growing longer and longer. It's like, wow, every day I stop having one problem, but then I find out about other problems. But I feel fairly good right now. Yeah. And I do think part of success, like while what I said it is the main part of success, I do think that part of success is also just being like, at least decently financially stable and, having your life together to a bare minimum. And so there's, still a few things that I want to do in that regard as well.
Okay. Who do you want to be?
Myself. Who I want to be, yeah, like I said, I want to be like a reflection of how I feel on the inside. And I think we all kind of know who that person is.
Mm-hmm.
And so
some people may not want to be who they
feel on the inside.
On the inside.
Yeah. And luckily I feel pretty good on the inside. All the things that I want to do are positive things. I don't know what it'd be like to feel like you want to do some bad things. But
you have a good heart. I have to say, you have a good heart, and that's one of the things that I really love about you and admire. So, what is one thing you've learned in the past 30 days or so?
Past 30 days.
It could be a week. You can just.
Okay.
I'm giving an extended amount of time.
Oh man, I'm not sure. I think really like this past month, I've been more focused on trying to figure out specific things than I have actually learned some things. Although I've learned some very interesting specific things, like some interesting specific facts. Like, last night I learned that that marker thing that they do in videos actually serves a purpose. I enjoy learning things. I feel like that adds a lot to life, actually. Like, you see something, you're like, I know why that is the way that it is.
That's cool. That's good.
But yeah, I don't know.
You learned something.
Yeah, at least one thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've learned a lot of things.
No.
I mean, I'm always
You,
learning
I mean,
things.
yeah, you do learn a lot, and you've said a lot through this conversation. You know how much you do learn and how much you love learning. So, you know, it's. I mean, when you have a question like that posed like randomly, yeah, there's a lot of thoughts that can go through your head. So you did a good job, and I like what you said. Good job. What is one thing you hear most people say about you?
You know, I'm actually not sure. I feel like there's like this conference I went to recently, and part of the workshop was like, you know, talking about like, what do you see yourself as and what do other people see you as? And I realized right then, like, that's a question that's asked a lot, and I actually don't really go around asking people like, how do you see me?
But they
tell me?
yeah, most people tell people.
I guess, yeah,
What
some
they
people
think.
have told me things. I guess, I feel like it varies a lot by person. I mean, I think that people might say some like fairly generic things about me.
Right.
Like, oh, well, they say that people say that I smile a lot and all the time, or that I'm always happy, which I always thought was interesting because I just feel like I'm living my life. You know, like sometimes I'll be having like a not so good day and I'm just walking through, and then somebody will say hi, and because they're my friend, you know, I smile when they see them. Like, and they're smiling at me too, so I'm thinking everybody smiles when they see their friend. But then they're like, I love your smile, you're always so happy, and like, oh, I can't believe you're smiling right now, it's midterms week and everyone's down and you're so happy. I'm like, but everyone smiles when they say hi. So I never really, you know, I feel pretty normal. I don't feel like, you know, I feel like I smile at pretty appropriate times. But that is one thing that people say, is that I smile a lot, or that I'm cheerful. Maybe I am more cheerful than other people. I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
Last question. What is a goal or project you're working on now, currently?
A project I'm working on, I would probably talk about my research right now, because that's probably the main thing that's that I'm spending a lot of time on right now.
Oh yeah, your research. You are going to Harvard.
Oh yes, I'll be doing research in plant genetics at Harvard over the summer. So a lot of my focus has just been the research I'm doing right now, which is fairly close to the research I'll be doing at Harvard, and so getting well read on that, and you know, working hard to understand that and become adept at that.
Are you excited about going to Harvard?
Oh yeah, very excited. Harvard's like, I remember like being a little kid, like there was that point where I said, you know, I didn't really want to go to college, but I did always I was always interested in Harvard, or the idea of Harvard, because ever since when I was young and I would like read things about science or so forth, Harvard's mentioned all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in politics, you know, there's a lot of, you know, like President Obama went to Harvard. So I think part of the interest that I have in it is just that, you know, it has a large degree of historical relevance. And I'm just really interested to see like how things are done at a university that's, you know, the oldest university in the United States, and that's, you know, had an impact on so many things. I just feel like it'll help broaden my perspective, and it'll be really the first time that I'm away from my home in California for like a longer time than 3 days. So
you'll be there for how
long? For 10 weeks, so about
Too
2.5
for me.
months.
I'm trying to get used to that idea, but I'm very happy for you, very excited when you told me you got accepted for the summer program. Can you share a little bit on how that happened?
Yes. Well.
Or no?
No, probably
Maybe
not.
You got in.
Yeah.
And it was a good thing.
It was a very good thing.
Yes. You have a lot of favor. And that shows too the character and the person that you are, and what you were explaining, you know, how you want the reflection of your heart to, you know, to manifest out, you know, to the world. So, yes. All right. I'd like to ask you to give a shout out to anyone significant in your life, and just say a little bit about them. You know, a shout out to.
Oh, that's interesting. I can't shout you out because you're right here. Let's see.
You can still. Anyone or anyone else.
Oh, okay. I'll
You've
give
said
a shout
lot
out.
about me already anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give a shout out to my little sister, Jeania. I think she's a really cool person. I'm really proud of Jeania. I think that I really enjoy being around her, and you know, when I see her, I feel the kind of joy that I guess sometimes people say they get from my smile. That's the kind of joy that I get from her smile. And I feel like she's a really incredible child, really fun to be around. And I really enjoy doing things with her, and she's such like an excited and like, you know, she has such a interested personality and a fun personality. And I'm thankful to have her.
Oh, that's nice, Uriah. All right, state an affirmation.
An affirmation?
Yes, something good about yourself. You know, you are something good about yourself. Just state an affirmation.
I am getting better.
Getting better at
everything. Hopefully.
Okay. Good. And then lastly, make a declaration. Something
Declaration.
Declare something that you will do, accomplish, you're going to work on in the near future. Or future.
Well, one thing that I've been working on, and I guess I'll declare that I will solve, is just still managing. I would like to be able to live my life in such a way to where, I guess, no matter how many things are on my plate or no matter how bad things are going, that I'm never too stressed or too sad or too frustrated, and that I just feel good and wholesome even when I'm struggling with certain things, and that I'm able to separate those difficulties from my daily experience.
Okay. Awesome. Uriah, thank you so much. It was an honor to have you as my guest on my show. Thank you so much for being here. Did you have fun?
It's an honor to be your son. It's an honor to be your guest. Yes, it was fun.
Good. Right. Bye-bye, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching. Say that again.
I can't say that again.
Now you're drinking water.
Ever since I saw Marco Rubio drinking all that water. Oh no, that was really. I don't like drinking water on camera.